Welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast. Got a pretty interesting show for you here today, and got one of my guys, one of my very good friends, and you'll see him in just a minute. He's going to be here to talk NBA with us, so definitely looking forward to that. But if you haven't already and you're here on YouTube, you know what time it is. Please go ahead, click that like, that subscribe, that notification bell. Make sure you're kept up to date and kept aware whenever we drop new content on the channel. If you want the audio only version of the podcast so you can just listen while you're cooking, driving, doing whatever, go ahead, open up your audio podcast platform, hit the search bar, type in the Format Podcast, and we should come right up. Make sure if you're enjoying the content, you give us that like, give us that 5-star review, give us that comment. We try to answer all of those. It helps us rise in the algorithm, helps us find more sports fans, helps more sports fans find us. So grateful. So thank you so much for joining us here today. All right. So let's get right to it. In the meantime, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and move to the next topic. This is an interesting one. So we're going to talk some MVP race. And the MVP race is often in most sports like kind of one of the biggest things that we talk about in the regular season, because it's one of those things that's really always a big time topic and a big time discussion. And first, let me say this: I'm always iffy about the MVP, and that's the MVP, the Heisman Trophy, whatever. And the reason why is there doesn't seem to be any standardized criteria, and if there is, the leagues don't want us to know because they want us to be talking about it and debating it. And it's frustrating because you almost get like different criteria every year. And I'm a guy that truly believes in standardization, and I'd love to see that. So I think I'm going to name the guys who I think probably the big four who are the MVP main options this year, and tell me if I leave somebody out. And I think that's Jokic, Tatum, Luka Doncic, and of course Giannis. Am I leaving anybody out? And what do you think? Maybe Shai Gilgeous, I guess. But what do you think of those guys, and who do you think is probably in the lead for the MVP this year?
What's that kid from Indiana? Forget his name.
Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah, I think he should be in there.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, he's really good. Yeah. He can shoot it. He can pass it. Yeah, he's really good. Yeah. So give me your thoughts. So if we say, I guess Jokic, Tatum, Luka, Giannis, and Halliburton, and maybe Shai Gilgeous, what are your thoughts on who you think should be the MVP, or who you got in the lead right now?
Yeah, I heard SGA was supposed to get it too. I forgot about him.
Mm-hmm.
He's balling.
He is.
Yeah, I don't know. I really honestly don't know. It's more of the most of the time the players I think that would get it won't, or they don't. And so it's more of a popularity contest amongst the decision makers, I think, than it is like a fan. It's supposed to be, if I'm not mistaken, the fans are supposed to pick, but it's hard to say when you introduce international play and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know. I think any one of those guys can get it, but it just depends on that market, right?
All right. So if you're the decision maker, you got to pick one today, right now. Who's it going to be?
The Joker. I'm gonna say the Joker, bro. Like I'm gonna stand on.
I agree with you.
Yeah, he's consistent. Like, I think after you've been in the league a while, a lot of players don't really. They do enough right before the All-Star game, and then you start seeing the league heat up after the All-Star game. But there's a lot of dead games before that. And that could be one of the things that's different between the 90s and now, right? They used to play every game, whereas you see a lot of people they resting and such. And so, not to get off topic, I'm gonna say Joker, just because he lighted everybody up. It doesn't matter what day of the week it is, if it's playoffs or not. So, and a lot of those guys I haven't seen in the playoffs. So,
right. So I can't really bring the playoffs into it because obviously MVP is a regular season award. Now, kind of human nature and the way we think as human beings, we're going to look back on the totality and say, well, maybe I don't want to vote for this guy for MVP because he fades when the team needs it most. But again, regular season award. And if I had to choose one right now, as much as I just finished talking about, the Joker, I think Jokic is the MVP. I mean, we're seeing what he's doing. This guy is getting 26, 12, and 9, and he's got the Nuggets 42 and 20, third seed in the East, real comfortable right there. They're not pushing too hard because I think they know now what it takes to become a champion, and they're clearly the team to beat in the West and maybe the team to beat in the league. Boston was kind of thought to be the best team in the league for a while there, and the Nuggets went ahead and beat them twice, somewhat easily. So I think, man, Jokic is. So here's the thing: most valuable player. So this whole thing about the best player that year, I really don't get that. I think most valuable is the key. I don't know why no one really sticks to that word, but if you took Jokic off that team might not make the playoffs. And I think that's so important to look at when you talk about value. And Jokic, I think, is that good. Like I said, when he goes up against Embiid, we see what happens. But, there are bad matchups in sports. And that may just be a bad matchup for him because it seems like everybody else is a great matchup because, to your point, he's killing everybody else he goes up against. He's killing AD, who's supposed to be a great defensive center. There's nobody else who could deal with him in this league. So I totally get you when you talk about Jokic. I do think he's really, really, really good for this era of NBA basketball. The other one kind of gets me is a lot of people, every year you hear Luka Doncic being like, before the season starts, at the top of the list for MVP. But this is going to be another year that he's putting up astronomical numbers that he's not going to get it. Over the last 8 games, he's averaging 37 plus points, but the Mavericks are 3-5 in that stretch. He has a record 4 straight 35 plus point per game triple doubles. That's an NBA record. The league's been around for 76 years now. and he's doing that. So he's putting up crazy numbers. I think he's leading the league in scoring. He's averaging like 35 and a half. So he's getting busy, but it's the problem with Luka is he's getting busy. He's doing everything. He's getting the rebounds. He's getting the assists. What is he? Luka is averaging, it's crazy. It's like, I want to say 35, 9, and 9, something absolutely ridiculous. If he finishes averaging a triple double, and maybe I believe it'll be the highest scoring triple double average in history. So that may get him some play right there. But here's the problem with Luka, though. He's not a guy who makes his teammates better and really helps his team the way the all-time greats do, even though he's putting up numbers. So let's take a second here. I got a clip from his former teammate, Chandler Parsons. This is a guy who played with Luka, so this is not me, quote unquote, hating. And he's going to give his thoughts on Luka. We'll listen to this and come right back.
Yeah, and he hasn't won, right? He hasn't won at a high level. He hasn't, and so it's almost like James Harden back in the day. It's like his usage is so high, the ball's in his hands. You'd like to see everybody get more involved. And there's a balance, right? You want your star player, like Anthony Edwards, for example, this next 2 months, you want him to take 35, 40 shots. You don't want Luka to do that for a whole season from October to now. It's exhausting. Guys get upset. Guys want touches. So I think when the Mavericks are at their best, they obviously have Luka and Kyrie going. They're taking the majority of the shots. But you have to have the Tim Hardaway's chip in. You have to have PJ Washington's chip in with 12 points. You got to have everybody involved. You got to have everybody touch it because that is contagious. That makes them play harder. That makes them happier. It makes them defend. And when you got a guy like Luka that's so good offensively and not so great defensively, guys have to step up and cover him on that end. So when they're open for that swing, they want that open 3 instead of a Luka 35-foot step back. So I think he's an unbelievable talent. He is literally a guard version of Jokic where he can do everything. He's mesmerizing with the basketball. But as a teammate, gets a little exhausting watching the same shit over and over again. And then when you don't win, it's even magnified. Like, okay, can we try something else? Can I maybe get the ball? Like, you know what I mean? So it definitely can be frustrating.
All right, so we heard Chandler Parsons, and again, this is a former teammate of his. This is a guy who's a quote-unquote modern NBA player, so I don't want to get accused of being the old head hater talking about Luka. He gave his thoughts, and it's funny, if I had said this, I would have been getting vilified. But what are your thoughts about what Chandler Parsons had to say about Luka and his amazing skill set, because it is, and the amazing production he's putting up?
He's definitely a bucket. But
I mean,
I definitely agree with him as far as him chucking the ball, scoring 30 almost every game in the season, and then getting to the playoffs and he's running out of gas. And so we seen that. Everybody see that. That's just Luka. But I think Mike went through the same thing before Scotty came in, right? As though it was just a one man show. Kyrie was supposed to be there to help him out, but you know that's another
So
thing.
I think a little bit of the difference. Yeah, my bad. Go ahead.
He's a Chuck, but he damn near averaging a triple double. Like
Yeah.
You know.
So I think a lot of the difference, though, you pointed to Mike before Scotty got there, and I really don't like that analogy because one of the biggest things is that Mike had probably even less help before Scotty got there than Luka does now, and Mike actually played both sides of the ball, and he played like a maniac on both sides of the ball, which to me is kind of why I go with the number one. I have Mike as the best two-way player of all time. But the fact that he played so hard on both sides of the ball says he was really trying to win, not just stack numbers, right? Because Luka don't even pretend to try and play defense. You know what I mean? And so that to me says, is he just trying to get his? Or is he just, is he really trying to win? Because if he was, he would actually attempt to defend. Now, when you talk about almost averaging a triple double, yeah, absolutely. But like you watch Dallas play and you see him, a big thing is so much of that is, okay, Luka can't get his shot, so he just drive and kick. It's not actually running offense and getting guys involved and getting guys some touches so that they can get in rhythm, because when you're taking all these shots, and he is the best player, no question, so he gets to take all the shots, but when you do that, do you really expect your players to be in rhythm when you get them the ball to be able to make these? You know what I'm saying? So I think there's some questions there. And here's my other thing. I think it's really odd with a guy like Jason Kidd, who is he's an all-time elite floor general, being Luka's coach. Why is he not like trying to teach Luka how to be a better floor leader than he is? Or is that coming from higher? Maybe, I don't know.
That's probably what's happening. That's what the fans want to see. He's definitely unstoppable. I mean, but at the same time, winning is probably second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
well, it's going to be interesting to see at what point the basketball media, the NBA media, starts holding Luka accountable and saying, okay, you got all your numbers. It's time for you to start winning now. I'm really curious to see at what point, because think about it, nobody's cooking him yet like that. When Mike was young in his career, he was putting up all these crazy numbers and all that. Even though there was no social media back then, in the newspapers, he was getting lit up because they were talking about he doesn't win like Magic and Bird do. He gets his numbers and he's a great player, but he's not a winner. And so far, I haven't really heard that in regards to Luka Doncic yet. So I thought that was interesting. All right, next up, Jason.
You can't even mention his name in defense.
No, you can't. And I think that's a problem.
Pro offensive league.
You might be right, Mark. Jason Kidd is trying to keep his job, but guess how you keep your job? What did you tell me earlier, Mark?
You play to win the game.
Hello. Right? So what's the best way to keep your job? If you win, that's the best way to keep your job. But all right, I hear you on that. Okay, next up, MVP candidate, Jason Tatum. He's been getting busy all year. I think he's averaging like 27-8 or 28-8. Really the best player on the Celtics team, best player on the best team in the league, and he's doing his thing. But he's been getting ripped over the last few days in the sports media. He's getting ripped in the sports media over the last few days because he didn't show up against the Nuggets. So now you're hearing he's not clutch. He doesn't show up in big games. And I guess there's two ways to look at that, right? You can look at the fact that he flamed out in the finals a couple of years ago, and I got to get on him for that, because if I'd get on LeBron or anybody else, I got to get on him. I think he led that entire playoff run. He set a record for most turnovers in a playoff run and most turnovers in a final series, so that's inexcusable. That said, I think in that playoff run against Milwaukee, he had, the 46 in the winner go home game 6, and so he turned in that one. I think last year in the playoffs against Philadelphia, he had the 51-point game 7. So Tatum, we can't say that we cannot say that Tatum is a guy who doesn't show up or he shrinks in the big moment, because he's had some huge moments. Now, on the biggest moment, I don't know if he's there yet. And this is funny because I've said it for a while. Even as a Celtics fan, I have questioned whether or not Tatum is that guy. And so far, I haven't seen it quite yet. He's a really, really good player. Really, really good player. But is he the guy that can take you there? I'm not sure. Now, here goes Mark Davis again. Trade Tatum for LBJ if you want to chip. If you're a Celtics fan, you do not want LeBron James anywhere near your franchise. I'm not going to take it any further than that. You just don't.
That's crazy.
Huh?
That's crazy.
Well, you know, hey, you can feel that way. If I'm a GM or I'm an owner, I don't want that dude anywhere near my franchise. He's a team wrecker. What did Skip Bayless used to call Terrell Owens? Team obliterator? That's LeBron. I wouldn't want him anywhere near my franchise. It's not worth it.
So you wouldn't trade Tatum for LBJ?
Nah, because the reason why is when you trade for LeBron, you're not just trading 1 for 1 or even 2 for 1. You're bringing in LeBron, and your whole roster has to get redone, and that's problematic. That's problematic. I'm not seeing that. Nah, I wouldn't do it. I'm not telling you that Jason Tatum is better than LeBron. That is not what I'm saying. Let me make that clear. I'm not saying I wouldn't make that deal because I think Tatum is better. I'm saying I wouldn't make that deal because of what LeBron does to teams. Nah, I wouldn't do it. All right. Last guy, obviously Embiid. He's not going to be in the MVP race because he's not going to make the 65-game threshold because he got injured. And the last guy, and it's funny, nobody's talking about this dude, is Greek Freak, Giannis. I really don't understand why nobody's talking about him. The Bucks are 3rd in the East. They're still well seated for a possibly deep playoff run. He's averaging 31, 11, 6.5 assists. Really hasn't taken a step back. I don't think in terms of skill, he's going to get too much better. I think at this point, he is what he is. He's never going to stop working hard because Giannis is a hard worker. We've seen that throughout his career. But in terms of certain skill sets, whether it's shooting the 3 or shooting the long range J or anything like that, or being able to play beyond how he plays, I don't know that he'll ever get to that point. But he's going to give you everything he's got, and that's still a very dangerous team. The Bucks are 41-23. And Doc Rivers, you know, your lookalike. Doc Rivers got them playing well, playing well since coming out of the All-Star break. They're on a slight skid right now. I think they lost like 2 in a row. But I think for me the key is Dame Lillard and getting him comfortable, which oddly I would have thought would have happened by now. But Dame Lillard, getting him comfortable and getting him to be able to maximize his talents and really gel properly with Giannis, because Giannis is still doing what he's always done. But why do you think Dame Lillard hasn't been able to really fit in and gel nicely enough with Giannis yet? Or is it a defensive problem?
I think they really just waiting for the playoffs, bro. They in 3rd, so it's just easy coast to the playoffs. I think at this point in the league, they just coasting. Right, the Wizards won yesterday. All right, so it's like I think teams are starting to rest their players, and they just looking for the playoffs, because honestly, that's when they make their money. Like in the playoffs, they did enough to get 3rd, maybe 5th seed at the end if they continue on this path. But yeah, that mid-season trade was weird. Right, it was a mid-season trade, right?
No, it was preseason. It was preseason.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So here's the thing: we know that the Lillard, it's a boost offensively, but it hurts them defensively because he's never played defense. He's not going to do that. He just doesn't, or can't, or won't, or whatever it is. But he's not a defender in the least. Now here's another question, right? So you got Dame Lillard, and do you think the pressure is starting to get to him? Because in Portland, there was never any real pressure, right? Anything he did was like a bonus. You know, he's going to lead the team in scoring. You know, he's going to do everything he can. When they got to the conference finals that one year, it was like, wow, Dame dragged these guys to the conference finals. But there was never any real expectation. Now he's here. He's been saying for years, you know, he wants to be with a contender. He wants a chance to win. Now he's with a team that has won and with a guy who's a champion. And he's supposed to be the piece to help them get back to being a champion, or at the very least championship contention. Do you think he's feeling the pressure now that he's never felt before as an NBA player?
Nah, absolutely not. You win a chip in the playoffs, right? You win
Mm-hmm.
a chip. You win a chip. You don't win a chip in the regular season, right? He definitely has that clutch gene where he can hit all those clutch shots, and
Mm-hmm.
I think you just wait. I think you just wait for him. When it's time, he gonna show up.
Hmm.
My beliefs.
Okay, so well, I hope so because that'll make for a more exciting playoff season, right? So this is interesting. Dame, they say he's a real pick and roll guy, but Giannis doesn't seem to play well in the pick and roll. So if I'm a coach, right? Again, I keep saying if I'm a coach, obviously I'm not. And if it was that easy, I would be, right? But if I was a coach, I would look at this and say, okay, I got Dame and Giannis, right? Why am I not going and grabbing film of every variation of the PNR that Stockton and Malone ran and say, okay, guys, this is what we can use. Pull some of that and put it in my playbook, right? Dame, you're obviously in the Stockton mold, but even more dangerous because you're a better scorer than he was. And Giannis, obviously you're not going to be doing the pick and pop like Malone did, but you can pick and roll, right? And you're more athletic than him, so you can hit it off alleys, back doors, whatever. Like there's a lot of opportunity for you to have success running the pick and roll with Dame and Giannis. Why do you think that? I mean, do you have any thought as to maybe why guys haven't, their coaching staff haven't tried to introduce more of that into the game for them?
It might be a playoff adjustment for Doc. Right? Might just be one of those things that he decide to throw in the playoffs. Um, I don't know. I don't know. You are supposed to play to the strengths of your key players, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if they're not doing that, it's Doc's a really really good coach. He's been known to choke. Um, so
Yes, many
it's
times.
it's going to be interesting to see how he adjusts. But then again, it's all in who you play and how they play you as well.
Right, right.
So.
I don't know, but I get what you're saying, but can you really leave it all to the playoffs? Like you gotta at some point start working this stuff in live game action so that when you decide to employ it in the playoffs that you've done it together in real, real live action situations. Am I right? You can't just do it all in practice.
For years, the East has been the easy way to the finals.
Mm-hmm.
It's been the easy way to the finals. So maybe they see something that we don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're probably looking at their schedule like we can beat them, we can beat them, we can beat anybody we play. So I don't know. It's just one of those things you gotta watch. I'm sure it's gonna be extremely entertaining watching Dame and Giannis play in the playoffs. But right now we're just waiting. Like I said, you can't win a chip in the regular season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope so. And the cynic in me is maybe thinking like when Dame was trying to force his way out of Portland, maybe he was thinking that he was going to force his way to Miami, which by all reports was where he really wanted to go. Then he ends up in Milwaukee. He got to play nice, but he doesn't really want to be there. I don't, obviously I don't have any information on that, but I don't know what he thought. And maybe he's thinking that if it doesn't work out, he can just try to force his way to Miami, which would suck and just send a horrible freaking message to the rest of the league, but whatever. But
he's in the middle of a divorce too, right?
I think I don't know if he's in the middle of it or if it got wrapped up by now, but yeah.
Yeah, so his mind's probably not even on basketball right now. It could be. I mean, those outside influences, they definitely affect the player. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I hear you on that. All right, so we got Jokic, Tatum, Luka, Giannis, SGA, and to recap on that, it's your thought that Joker should win the MVP if you had to pick one today, right?
Yeah, if I had to pick today, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. Okay, so I think looks like we're on the same page for once today on that. Yeah, I definitely agree that it would be.
Mark said he doesn't play well with others.
Yeah, I saw that. But yeah, we could say that. But other than McCollum, like how many other superstar guys have we seen him play with? And to Mark's earlier point, there are some teams, as he said, that just don't get those big name free agents. Portland being one of them. So, in fairness to Dame, we haven't seen him have the opportunity to play with those guys to know other than McCollum. So, there's that. Because when he got Melo, that was at the end, right? That was pretty much at the end for Melo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then you don't want to exert yourself the entire regular season, and then you get to the playoffs and get bumped first round, and it's like
Mhm,
all for nothing. That happened to him so many times. He's probably pacing himself. I don't know. These guys get paid
Right.
millions of dollars to play basketball. But,
Yeah. You getting all that money, make it work, right?
yeah.
I hear you on that.